In 1923, 8 of the richest men on earth met in a hotel in Chicago. 25 years later, most of them were bankrupt, imprisoned, insane, or dead by their own hand. They had mastered making money. Not one of them had learned the thing this video is about. Stay with me for the next 2 hours, and you will. Before we do anything else, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to answer it silently, honestly, in the privacy of your own head. Imagine standing up in front of everyone you know, your family, your co-workers, your friends, and announcing that you intend to become wealthy. Genuinely wealthy. Wealthy enough to live exactly the way you choose to live. How would that feel? Be honest. For most of you, something just tightened in your chest. A little voice said, "That's embarrassing. That's greedy. People will laugh." Some of you would rather give a eulogy than make that announcement. This story is about that tightness in your chest, because that discomfort, that flinch, is not an accident. It's a symptom. It's the visible tip of an invisible program that's been running in your mind since childhood. And that program, more than the economy, more than your boss, more than your education, is what has determined your financial results up to this very moment. The title of this story is a claim. You were born rich. And I want to be precise about what that claim means, because it is not a slogan and it is not flattery. It does not mean you were born with money. Most of us weren't. It means you were born with the equipment, the mental machinery, the creative capacity, the connection to an abundant universe that wealth is actually made from. Money is a result. The equipment that produces the result came factory installed. Nobody ever showed most of us the owner's manual. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to read that manual together. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and let's go deep together and find that source within you. Now let me finish the story I opened with, because it frames everything we'll cover. In the year 1923, a group of the most financially powerful men on earth gathered at a grand hotel on the Chicago lakefront. Between them, these men, a steel magnate, the head of a giant utility, the top commodities speculator of the age, the man who ran the New York Stock Exchange, a member of the president's cabinet, Wall Street's most feared trader, the head of a global monopoly, the president of an international bank, controlled more money than the government of the United States. If earning money were the whole game, these men had won it. Now roll the film forward 25 years. The steel magnate spent his final years living on borrowed money and died broke. The utilities chief lost his mind. The great speculator died penniless overseas. The head of the stock exchange went to prison. The cabinet member was released from prison only so he could die at home. 3 of the others took their own lives. Now, people love to draw the wrong lesson from that story. They say, see, money ruins people. Rich people aren't really happy. That conclusion is comfortable, and it is false. There are enormous numbers of wealthy people who are healthy, generous, balanced, and doing tremendous good in the world. The real lesson is sharper. Those 8 men mastered the earning of money, but not one of them ever learned to live the rich life, the whole life that was their birthright. They had the harvest and never learned the nature of the soil. Money mastered them instead of the other way around. So here is the promise of this video. By the end, you will walk away with 3 things. First, a correct understanding of money itself, what it is, what it's for, and the laws that govern its movement towards you or away from you. Fewer than 1 person in 10 ever acquires this understanding, and it shows. Roughly 95 people out of 100 go from the cradle to the grave, settling for whatever life hands them, wishing all the way, never suspecting that they could have had what they wanted. Second, a working knowledge of your own mind, specifically of a creative process that runs in you every hour of every day, whether you direct it or not. Most people use this machinery flawlessly to reproduce the results they don't want. We're going to learn to point it the other way. Third, a set of practices. Concrete, do them tomorrow morning practices. For money management, mental imagery, and daily discipline that turn philosophy into results. One instruction before we begin, and please take this seriously. As we watch this together, your mind will be tempted to wander to other people. You'll think of your cousin who went bankrupt, or a friend who struck it rich, and you'll start evaluating these ideas against their lives. Don't. What anyone else has or doesn't have will not change your circumstances by 1 cent. Keep the spotlight on yourself for the next 2 hours. It's your financial life we're here to rebuild. And one more thing. Hearing these ideas will do nothing for you. Memorizing them will do nothing for you. You could learn to recite this entire video word for word and remain exactly as broke as you are right now. The only thing that produces results is understanding followed by application. If you finish this video having deeply grasped and acted upon a single idea from it, you will have gotten more value than the person who nodded along to all of it and did nothing. These ideas are meant to be sipped, not gulped. Fair enough? Then let's begin at the beginning, with money itself. Everything in your financial life flows downstream from your relationship with money. So let's establish 4 truths about money. 4 planks that everything else in this video will stand on. Truth number 1. Money is important. Stop pretending it isn't. You've heard people say it 1,000 times. Money isn't everything. I don't really care about money. Money can't buy happiness. Notice something about those statements. The people who make them may not care about money, but their landlord cares, their grocer cares, the bank holding their mortgage cares very much indeed. We live in a civilization where money is the medium through which food, shelter, education, medicine, and opportunity are exchanged. In the arena where money operates, nothing else substitutes for it. Arguing about whether money is as important as love or health is a category error. Like arguing whether a hammer is as important as friendship. They do different jobs. In its job, money has no understudy. Here's why this matters psychologically. You cannot attract, hold, or wisely use something you are busy despising. If part of you believes money is vulgar, or that wanting it makes you a lesser person, then part of you is working every day to repel the very thing you say you want. The first repair is simply to grant money its honest place, important, useful, morally neutral, and worth understanding deeply. Truth number 2. Money is a servant, and you are the master. Now, having elevated money, let me immediately install the guardrail. Money is important the way a servant is important. The relationship only works in one direction. You are the master. Money serves. The 8 men in Chicago reversed that equation. Many brilliant people do. They end up loving money and using people, and that reversal violates the most basic moral law of genuine financial success. Get the direction tattooed on your thinking. Love people, use money, never the other way around. In fact, say it out loud, right now, wherever you're watching this. I mean it. Love people. Use money. Good. That sentence will come back several times before we're done. Truth number 3. Money is only alive while it moves. Here's a property of money almost nobody thinks about. Money has value only while it circulates. Take it out of circulation and it becomes, functionally, scrap paper. No more useful than stacks of old newspapers in an attic. Let me make that concrete. Imagine a man who keeps a decorative cup on a bookshelf, and every evening he empties his pocket change into it. While the coins sit in that cup, weeks of them, months of them, what are they accomplishing? Nothing. They buy nothing, earn nothing, help no one. They are money in a coma. But suppose that when the cup fills, he hands it to a child in the family, and that child sprints off and spends it on golf lessons. The instant the money moves, it comes alive. The child gets skill and joy. The golf instructor gets income. The instructor spends it somewhere else, and the current flows on through the community. Same coins. The only difference is motion. Now the dark version of the same principle. Picture an elderly junk dealer, a stooped, gentle man who spends decades pushing a cart through the neighborhood, collecting what others throw away, living in visible poverty. He dies alone. And when the authorities enter his little house, they find, hidden in boxes all through the rooms, a fortune, over $100,000 in old bills, sitting in the dark. The newspapers ask the obvious question: why would a man of means live like a pauper? But here's the question I want you to sit with. What did all that hidden money actually do for him? He could have enjoyed it. He could have invested it and created jobs. He could have at least banked it and earned interest. Instead, he entombed it. And in entombing his money, he entombed himself. He feared poverty so intensely that he clutched every dollar. And the clutching produced the very poverty he feared. He lived poor while rich. The thing he dreaded most, he manufactured daily with his own hands. Now, one clarification so nobody misquotes me on the way out. Circulating money is not the same as squandering it. There is a world of difference between keeping money in productive motion, spending, investing, giving, and simply burning through it. If you don't yet know the difference, finding out is part of your homework. Truth number 4, money is earned. Luck is not a strategy. Whenever somebody succeeds financially, listen to how the people around them explain it. He got lucky. She was in the right place at the right time. It's the most popular theory of wealth in the world, and it's popular because it's comforting. If success is luck, then my lack of success isn't my responsibility. Does fortune play some role in life? Of course, but luck alone has never built or kept a fortune. Money is an effect, and the cause is service rendered, value delivered to other human beings. The reward tends to be proportional to the service. The only people getting money the easy way either print it at the mint or are on their way to prison. Everyone else earns it. And coupling good fortune with effort and delivered value is the only formula that has ever worked. The trap of fear, and your first mental exercise. Before we leave this section, I have to hand you a warning label because it concerns the single most destructive habit in personal finance. It is not overspending, it is worry. There's an ancient line from the book of Job. The great sufferer cries out that the thing he feared has come upon him. Hold that up against our junk dealer. He feared being poor, so he never spent, so he lived poor. His fear was a perfectly self-fulfilling prophecy. Later in this video, when we get to the laws of vibration and attraction, you'll see the machinery behind this. Why the mind tends to move toward what it dwells upon, wanted or unwanted. For now, just accept the practical rule. Worrying about money is never neutral. It actively manufactures lack. Even sensible worry, dressed up as saving for a rainy day, keeps your imagination rehearsing rain. And a related rule, if you want to change your income, you must become dramatically less impressed by other people's opinions and dramatically more attentive to the quiet counsel inside you. The people who never accumulate what they want are, almost without exception, the people most easily steered by the doom in the headlines and the skepticism of their relatives. Opinions are the cheapest commodity on earth. Everyone has a surplus and gives them away free. From today forward, you consult your own inner counsel first. So how do you begin repairing the relationship? With an exercise, I want you to start today. I call it mental money. Your subconscious mind, and we'll explore this deeply in a few minutes, cannot tell the difference between an experience you're actually having and one you're vividly imagining. That's not mysticism. It's the reason a nightmare raises your real heart rate. So we're going to use that feature deliberately. Every day, spend a few minutes seeing yourself already wealthy. Not wishing, seeing. Picture the amount you want. Picture what you'd do with it, and mentally do those things. In your constant inner self-talk, and everyone talks to themselves all day long. Talk about how good it feels to be prosperous. Congratulate yourself. Hear others congratulating you. I know how this sounds to a skeptical ear. It sounds like a child's game. I'm telling you, it is one of the wisest things you can do because you are working from cause toward effect instead of the reverse. And because repetition of an idea charged with feeling and faith is precisely how anything gets planted in the subconscious mind, where it begins to steer your perception, your choices, and your actions toward making itself real. Wealthy people are not comfortable around money because they have it. Read that order carefully. They have it because somewhere along the line, they became comfortable with it. Comfort first, cash second. That inner comfort is what we'll call, for the rest of this video, a prosperity consciousness. One caution: don't broadcast this new way of thinking at the office tomorrow. Not yet. Get a firm grip on it first. Fragile new ideas die easily in the frost of other people's ridicule, and you have nothing to gain from debating people who haven't heard what you've heard. Protect the seedling until it's a tree. All right, we've repaired the relationship. Now we have to do something that 95% of people never do in their entire lives. We're going to get specific. Here's the problem with the way most people want money. Ask them how much they want, and they say, "Oh, Lots. More. Enough to be comfortable. Now, remember what I told you about the subconscious mind. It doesn't reason. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't interpret. It accepts images and moves them toward form. And lots is not an image. Nobody on earth, least of all your own deeper mind, knows how much lots is. A vague order produces a vague delivery. You've been walking up to the counter of life and mumbling. An old broadcaster and student of success once observed something that stops most people cold when they really hear it. The majority of people think they want far more money than they actually do. And then they settle for far less than they could easily obtain. Both halves of that are tragic, and both come from never doing the arithmetic. So today, or tomorrow at the latest, you're going to do the arithmetic. Here's the exercise. The dream budget. Take a sheet of paper and list every category of spending in the life you choose to live. Not the life you're currently enduring. Housing, food, clothing, transportation, education for your children, vacations, recreation, insurance, savings, giving, whatever belongs on your list. Now, and this is the crucial instruction, do not write down what you spend now. Instead, take each category, close your eyes, and picture how you actually want to live. Maybe today you eat out twice a year on special occasions, but in the life you choose, perhaps you enjoy one genuinely fine dinner out every week. Excellent food, excellent service, a room that makes you feel like royalty. What does that cost per year? That's the number that goes on the paper. Maybe your current car is rusting at the wheel wells. In the life you choose, perhaps you drive a new car of your preference and trade it every couple of years. Cost it out, write it down. Do this for every line, then total it. That figure, the annual income required to fund the life you would choose, is your number. Write it large and bold. You are no longer a person who wants more money. You are a person with a defined objective. Now, while you were doing that mental exercise just now, some of you heard the old programming pipe up. This is fantasy. I'll never have money like that. Catch that voice in the act, because I want to tell you something about the people who do live at the level you just priced out. Overwhelmingly, they were not born to it, and nobody left it to them. They started short of money, exactly like you. What they had, what you have, is the inborn potential, and a moment when they stopped minimizing themselves. We all have this strange double standard where we assume other people can do things we can't. It is simply false. The reservoirs of talent and ability in you are deep, largely untouched, and identical in kind to those of anyone you admire. Part of the price of tapping them is answering precisely the question this section asks: how much is enough for you? And by the way, this isn't just a life you're designing for the fun of it. This is your one, non-refundable, no dress rehearsal life. You don't have a contract guaranteeing you endless decades. You should have the money you need to have the things you want, to live the way you choose. That's not greed. That's stewardship of your own existence. Pay yourself first. Now let's talk about the plumbing. Because a dream without a financial system underneath it is a daydream. Let me ask you a series of quick questions. How often do you pay your phone company? Every month, without fail. Your landlord or your bank? Every month. The grocery store? Every week? The gas station? Constantly? How often do you pay yourself? Strange question, isn't it? Fewer than 5 people in 100 ever pay themselves anything at all. Ask the other 95, why not? And they all give the same answer. By the time I've paid everybody else, there's nothing left. Of course there isn't, because they put themselves last in the line of their own payroll. The handful who escape this trap use a principle so old, it comes down to us from the merchants of ancient Babylon. And so simple, it fits in 4 words. Pay yourself first. A portion of everything you earn is yours to keep, not to spend, to keep. Here's the modern implementation. Think of your work week. What you earn Monday morning is roughly 10% of your income. From now on, that Monday morning money is yours. It comes off the top before anyone else gets a cent. And it goes into a separate account that I want you to name, literally, your financial independence account. Make it slightly inconvenient to access. Out of this account, you fund 2 things. First, adequate life and disability insurance. And let me spend 30 seconds on that, because it's the least glamorous and most neglected corner of personal finance. There are exactly 2 ways money is ever earned: people at work or money at work. If something removes you from the picture before your money has grown large enough to work in your place, insurance is the only instrument on earth that creates an instant estate for the people you love. And the great majority of families are dangerously underinsured, carrying barely enough to cover a funeral and a single year of expenses. For a modest sum, you can arrange things so that your family's financial goals are reached automatically, even if you're not here to reach them. Handle it, and then live with the serenity of a person whose affairs are in order. Second, everything else in that account accumulates as savings until there's enough capital to make a wise investment. You don't touch the principal. You don't touch the interest. You watch it grow. And watching it grow will feed you more motivation than any speech of mine ever could. The debt clearance plan. But I'm in debt, somebody's thinking. Deeply. This is all lovely music for people who aren't drowning. Good news, the same system retires your debt, calmly, systematically, and without another minute of lost sleep. First, reframe. Your mortgage is not debt in this sense. A home loan is an investment in an appreciating asset. We're talking about the consumer debts gnawing at you. Here's the mechanism. Monday afternoon plus Tuesday morning represents about 20% of your income. That 20% flows into a second account, your debt clearance account. Then you sit down, list every creditor, and divide that 20% among them proportionally. For some creditors, the new payment may be more than they currently receive. For others, less. Either way, you write each of them a courteous, confident letter that says, in your own words, "Here is my situation. Here is my plan. I have established a dedicated account. You will receive this fixed amount on these dates every single time until I have paid you in full with interest. And I'd be glad to walk you through the plan if it would help you assist others in my position." You enclose the first payment with the letter. Understand the posture of that letter. It is a statement, not a request. You are informing, not begging. You have taken command of your finances, and command changes everything, including how creditors treat you. In practice, the overwhelming majority of them will cooperate gladly. A regular, reliable partial payment beats an unreliable promise every time. Should some unreasonable soul threaten and bluster, hold your ground politely. No court in the land is going to punish a person who presents a disciplined, good faith plan for full repayment. Now look at what you've built in one sitting of paperwork. An instant estate protecting your family, a growing savings account, a payroll on which you are the first name, an orderly machine retiring your debts on autopilot, 70% of your income left to run your life, and, most valuable of all, a mind swept clean of financial static, free to concentrate on the creative work the rest of this video describes. From this moment, the word debt is out of your vocabulary. The machine is handling it. Your attention lives on the growth side of the ledger now. And notice the beautiful arithmetic waiting downstream. As your income rises, the 10% grows, the 20% grows, the debts die faster. And the day the last one dies, 90% of a larger income is yours to live on. The habit trap. One final insight in this section, and it may be the most important one. People occupy one of three financial positions: spending more than they earn, breaking even, or running a surplus. And here is the trap. Almost everyone in the first two positions believes the cure is more income. It is not, and you know it is not, because you've watched people double their income and end up deeper in the hole. Why? Because a person who habitually spends more than they earn will spend more than any amount they earn. We are creatures of habit, and income growth feeds whatever habit is already installed. That's why the system I've just described matters more than the raise you're hoping for. It forces a new habit for the month or two a habit takes to set, and then the habit carries you. Get the structure right at your current income, and every future increase becomes fuel instead of kindling. Tune-up complete. Your financial vehicle is roadworthy. Now let's talk about the engine, the mental faculty that actually manufactures the future. Let's talk about images. What I'm about to explain in this section, most people live and die without ever grasping. I once heard of a man who stood up at a business conference, 65 years old, and told the room that he had read about this idea, talked about it, even taught it, and only understood it at 65. I'd like to save you the wait. If this video has a single load-bearing wall, this is it. And here's a bold claim to hang on it. Once you truly understand image making, competition disappears from your life. You move off the competitive plane where everyone is fighting over what exists onto the creative plane where you bring new things into existence. And on the creative plane, the only opponent you will ever face is your own ignorance. Everything is created twice. Start with an observation so obvious, we look straight past it. Everything human beings have ever made was made twice. Once as a picture in a mind, then later as a thing in the world. Run the experiment across history. There was a time before chairs. Someone, somewhere, tired of sitting on the ground, formed a picture in his mind. A raised surface, legs hanging down, something supporting the back. The picture felt good. He kept returning to it until wanting became desire. Desire moved him into action, and with the image as his blueprint, he built, outside himself, a replica of what existed inside himself. He sat on it. It was good. The word chair is just a label we attach to that image. And notice, when I say the word, a picture flashes onto the screen of your mind. That's the whole system in miniature. Word, image, thing. Someone later imagined a chair long enough for two, and we got the sofa. Someone imagined a roof, and we started the long walk from the cave to the condominium. Two bicycle mechanics imagined human beings riding on the air, and today you can have breakfast on one continent and dinner on another. A telegraph, a telephone, a voyage beyond the sky. Every one of them, for a while, existed in exactly one place, behind somebody's eyes. And here's the personal application. You are the same kind of architect, whether you've been drafting on purpose or not. Everything in your life today, the bank balance, the career, the relationships, arrived through this same process. The image-making faculty has never once been switched off. Most people simply run it in reverse gear, which we'll get to in a moment. A great painter was once asked how he produced such extraordinary work, and his answer was, in essence, I dream the painting first, then I paint the dream. The canvas was always a copy. The original hung in his mind. The world's most celebrated golfer of his era said he never so much as gripped a club until he had watched, on his inner screen, the complete flight of the ball, the arc, the landing, the roll. He called it going to the movies before every swing. That private cinema is available to you right now, no ticket required, and it screens whatever you choose to project. Co-creation. A farmer's theology. Now some people hear all this and get theologically nervous. Isn't creation God's department? Let me answer with a story. A minister was driving a remote country road when he came upon the most beautiful farm he had ever seen. Fences mended, crops radiant, the farmhouse gleaming with fresh paint, flower beds along a lane of tall poplars, lawns like putting greens. Across the road, the fields were freshly ploughed, the furrows dead straight, the earth as black and rich as chocolate cake. The minister pulled over to admire it all, and presently the farmer came down off his tractor and walked to the fence, wiping his brow. The minister called out warmly, "My good man, God has certainly blessed you with a magnificent farm." The farmer stood quiet for a moment, took the straw from between his teeth, and said, "You're right, Reverend. He has. But I just wish you could have seen the place when he was running it by himself." That farmer had better theology than he knew. The creative power supplies the soil, the seed, the sun, the infinite raw material. But we choose what gets planted, and we do the work. We are co-creators. The power never plants your field for you, and it never refuses to grow whatever you plant, which is exactly why the responsibility for what grows in your life sits where it sits. The direction of flow, thought to idea to thing. Let me give you the architecture in 3 levels, because you'll use this diagram for the rest of your life. You live simultaneously on 3 planes. At the top, the plane of thought, the highest potential, the open ocean of raw creative energy available to everyone. In the middle, the intellectual plane, where you assemble thoughts into an idea, a defined image. At the bottom, the physical plane, the plane of results, where ideas ultimately take form. The productive direction of flow is downhill, thought to idea to thing. You select thoughts. Money is good. I love people and use money. I am the master. Money is the servant. You build them into a definite image, say, the income figure you calculated 20 minutes ago. And you hold that image until it expresses itself in results, working from a higher potential to a lower one. That is creation. Ideas never assemble themselves. A human personality must always enter the process and do the thinking. And that right there is the God-like thing about you. Now watch what almost everyone does instead. They start at the bottom. They look at a result, an empty bank account, and they let the result dictate their thoughts. Thoughts of lack, worry, scarcity. Those thoughts assemble into an idea, the idea of poverty. And that idea, held and fed daily, faithfully manifests as next month's empty bank account, which they then look at, and the wheel turns again. It's a perfectly engineered feedback loop for reproducing the present forever, and the people trapped in it call themselves realists. They'll tell you, I'm just facing facts. The account is empty. And I'm telling you that this very reasoning, letting today's results manufacture tomorrow's images, is the mechanism that keeps poor people poor. Your current results, all of them, are nothing more than the physical printout of your previous thinking. If you want a different printout, you don't argue with the paper, you change the file. This is also why envy is such a foolish emotion. One of the old essayists called envy simply a form of ignorance. When you envy someone's results, you're gawking at their harvest while ignoring the fact that they planted first from the same infinite seed supply that's open to you right now, free of charge. Persistence, holding the image when the weather turns. Here is the fine print nobody reads. The moment you begin holding a new image, life will appear to test it. Circumstances will arise that seem to prove you're moving backwards. This is normal. In fact, it's often the necessary rearrangement that prepares you to receive what you're building, but only persistence gets you through it. One of the great students of achievement, who spent a lifetime analyzing hundreds of history's highest performers, concluded that persistence is to a person's character what carbon is to steel, and that persistence, not brains, was the one quality that separated figures like the man who lit the world and the man who put it on wheels from everybody else. Both of those men held an image and refused to let anyone or anything pry it loose. Both were rewarded in proportion to the service their images ultimately rendered to millions. Let me make persistence flesh and blood with two true stories, retold in my own words. The Apprentice. Picture a young man who decides he wants to teach and speak for a living, to do what a seasoned seminar leader he admires is doing. He phones the older man who is buried in engagements and won't be put off. When the only opening is a 90-minute layover in an airport coffee shop at 7 in the morning, he rises before dawn and drives 125 miles to be there. The older man, who has heard this same song from someone in nearly every city, gives him the unvarnished truth. It's brutal. Years of study, audiences that put you on trial, professionals in the crowd, doctors, engineers, lawyers, waiting to see if you crack. 1,000 fail for everyone who makes it. Usually that speech is the last you ever hear of such a person. Not this one. He read hundreds of books, recorded them in his own voice, and played them back in the car. He followed the seminars around the continent at his own expense, filled thousands of pages of notes, endured the early sessions where fear soaked him through, and cruel audiences watched him forget everything he knew. He was not paid. He did not stop. And the day came when he had earned the respect of major corporations across the continent, when he earned more in a single day than he had earned in a year at the start. Ask him whether image plus persistence works, and he'll give you the only answer that matters. I know you can, because I did. The manager and the sales sheet. Now a subtler case, because this man was already successful. A veteran district manager for a great insurance company, 20 years of service, respected by his executives, good people under him, a solid record. His district ranked around 175th out of more than 500 offices. Respectable, and it was killing him because he knew his team belonged in the top 100, and every single year he went for it, worked himself grey, and missed. He cornered the visiting seminar speaker at breakfast and laid out the problem. And the diagnosis took about a minute, because it's the same disease we just described. The man was letting the sales sheet dictate his self-image. He saw himself as the manager of the 175th office, and then strained with all his might against his own picture. You cannot outwork your own image. It's like trying to jump off your front porch and land on the roof. The prescription: reverse the flow. See yourself in the top 100 now, regardless of what the sheet says. Act from that image. Become mentally what you intend to become physically, and teach your people to do the same. The man didn't just nod politely. He flew 600 miles at his own expense to travel with the speaker for 3 days, filling notebooks. Then he went home and went to work on the image instead of just the numbers. Sales climbed. The company, in its wisdom, then transferred him to a worse district, 163rd, a strange reward for excellence. He took it as a challenge. 6 months later, that district stood 11th in the entire company. The office collected its first top 10% citation in 9 years, came within a few percentage points of first place 2 years later, and the man himself rose to a vice presidency. Ask him his operating rule today and he'll tell you, never ever let present results dictate the image you hold. Hold the image of what you want and act as though it's already yours. As the old German poet put it, before you can do something, you must first be something. Your written image. So here is your assignment from this section, and it is not optional. Today, before you sleep, get relaxed and deliberately mold your image, yourself living at the level you costed out earlier in vivid detail. Then write a short description of that image on a card in the present tense, beginning with words like, I am so happy now that I am, and complete it with the life you've designed. Carry the card, read it several times a day, every day, until the picture rises on its own and fills your consciousness. It makes no difference how accurately you can recite these concepts back to me. If the results aren't appearing in your life, you don't yet understand. You're informed, not transformed. The card is how information becomes transformation, repetition, feeling, every single day. And be good to yourself in the picture you build. Don't sketch a timid little upgrade. Quality of life isn't an expense, it's the point. Now we arrive at the chapter of this philosophy that people find hardest. Not hardest to do, hardest to allow. Everything so far has been active. Decide, calculate, visualize, write. This section is about what happens after you've done your part, and I'll warn you the way I'd want to be warned. If you miss this piece, the rest of the system underperforms. If you get it, a light goes on that never really goes off. The principle is 4 words old. Let go. and let God. If the word God sits uneasily with you, substitute Spirit, the infinite universal intelligence, the creative force. The principle doesn't care what you call it. Here's what it means and what it doesn't. What it doesn't mean. It does not mean treating the universe like room service, muttering, "Send money" toward the ceiling and waiting on the couch. Enormous numbers of people relate to their creator exactly like that, as a kind of cosmic errand boy who fetches and delivers on verbal request. And when nothing arrives, they conclude the whole business is nonsense. The failure isn't in the power. The failure is in the understanding. The power never moves into form without your participation. You must build the image, and you must act. Heaven helps those who help themselves is not a cliche. It's an operating instruction. What it does mean. Everything you can see, including the body you are sitting in, is the expression of one infinite power. Scientists call the underlying stuff energy. The mystics call it spirit. And for our purposes here, those are two words for one reality. That power flows to you and through you constantly, and it operates, this is the crucial phrase, by law, precisely, reliably. There's a line of scripture from one tradition that captures it perfectly in substance. Every blessing is predicated on a law, and when we receive any blessing, it is by obedience to the law on which that blessing depends. Not by begging, not by luck, by law. So the creative process has exactly two principles, and I'll give them to you like a prescription. First, relax and see yourself already in possession of the good you desire. Build the image, that's your half. Second, let go and let God. Turn the image over with total confidence that whatever needs to happen for its fulfillment will happen in its own way and time. That's the power's half. Your job is the what. The how is above your pay grade, and gloriously so. Faith, defined by a quiet man. I want to give you a definition of faith worth keeping. It comes in spirit from the most unassuming kind of man, the sort you wouldn't notice entering a crowded room, yet who moves through difficulty with a strength you can feel. Asked to explain his faith, a man like that once boiled it down to this: faith is the ability to see the invisible and believe the incredible. And that is what allows believers to receive what the masses call impossible. See the invisible, believe the incredible, receive the impossible. Show me any person of great achievement, and I will show you someone with great faith in their own God-given ability to bring their image into form. Because faith is the connecting link between the infinite power and you, and everything you ever accomplish will be proportional to two things: the intensity of your faith and its persistence, the shepherd and the giant. The old texts give us the definitive case study: a boasting giant, armored head to toe, preceded by a shield bearer, taunts an entire army, and the entire army, quite reasonably, hides. Reasonably, because they're measuring the problem against their own muscle. Then a shepherd boy steps forward. The elders, meaning well, dress him in heavy armor and hand him a sword. Other people's methods, other people's fears, and he takes it all off. "These aren't my weapons," he says. He walks out with a sling and a few smooth stones. And when the giant promises to feed him to the birds, the boy answers in essence, "You come at me with sword and spear and shield. I come in the name of something infinitely larger than both of us." One stone. The giant falls. Read the story as engineering, not just inspiration. The giant placed his faith in physical instruments. The boy placed his in the unseen power. And the unseen power outranks the visible every time. Your giant has a name. The debt, the diagnosis, the market, the critic. And the army of your ordinary thoughts has been hiding from it for years, measuring it against your own muscle. The let go and let God principle is you, stepping out of the borrowed armor, certain that whatever must happen for you to reach your goal will happen. And understand what fear does inside this machinery. A mind saturated with images of failure can no more create something of value than a stone can fall upward. The law of gravity doesn't bend for the person who steps off a roof sincerely or accidentally or in despair. And the law of creation doesn't bend either. It grows what's planted: doubt, fear, pessimism. These aren't harmless moods. They poison the source. They sap the energy, ambition, and hope that make life creative at all. And worst of all, they are themselves images, commissioned artwork of everything you don't want, submitted daily to the very power that turns images into things. Enthusiasm, the receipt. Here's something lovely. The moment you genuinely form an image and release it in faith, you'll notice a new feeling come over you. A lift, a current, a quickened aliveness. We call it enthusiasm, and the word's ancestry tells you what it really is. It descends from ancient Greek roots meaning, literally, in God. That feeling is your receipt. The order was received, and the feeling changes your behavior and your new behavior. Your new vibration, as we'll say after the break, begins attracting like-minded people and improbable coincidences with a regularity that will genuinely puzzle you. Don't try to dissect it. Accept the good as it comes and expect more. The skeptics will call you lucky. Let them. Maintenance of faith. 2 maintenance notes before we rest. First, faith is not a mood for good days. It won't do to believe in yourself only when the sun is out, and then collapse every time it rains, down and down again, like a frog trying to climb out of a well and growing weaker with every fall. Sporadic faith is just doubt with intermissions. So build a daily practice. Begin and end each day with a declaration of faith in yourself, the self made in the image of the creative power, and guard that faith like the treasure it is. And when it runs low, it will. Here is a strong technique. Go off by yourself, alone, and speak to yourself out loud, by name, in a firm and decided voice, the way you'd speak to someone you urgently needed to convince. Tell yourself, in your own words, along these lines: you are a child of the creative power, and you were never made for the weak, doubting life you've been leading. You were made for success. No one was ever made for failure. Stop perverting the purpose of your existence with these miserable doubts. Stop walking around with the face of a misfit when the image of perfection itself lives in you. Stand and walk like a conqueror, like the shepherd facing the giant, and express to the world what you were sent here to express. That is not egotism. Egotism glorifies the small, distorted self that wrong thinking built. This is the simple assertion of your kinship with the power that made you, and there is tremendous strengthening force in asserting it aloud. Second, force negates. When you've released the image, don't claw it back and try to muscle the outcome, straining, forcing, scheming to make it happen your way, on your timetable. That's the opposite of faith, and it jams the machinery. Learn instead to follow the quiet voice within, the one that speaks in feelings more than words, even when it counsels something at odds with how everyone around you lives. Most of history's great ones were called heretics for exactly that. They marched to a drumbeat only they could hear. And if you falter, you will. You'll grab the controls some Tuesday afternoon out of sheer habit. The instant you recognize it and reaffirm your image, the power picks up precisely where it left off. No penalty, no lost progress. Back in the current, moving again toward the only destination your held image permits. Build the image, release it, trust the law. Now, before the break, let's add the trigger that fires the whole mechanism: expectation. Let me open this section with a pointed question. What specifically are you doing right now to increase your income? If your honest answer is nothing, or, well, I've started thinking about it, then the previous sections haven't landed yet. And that's all right, because this one is the keystone that locks them together. The chapters of this philosophy are pieces of one puzzle. Here is where the picture snaps into view. The mind is a magnet. Your mind attracts what corresponds to its ruling state, its habitual, dominant condition. And the thing that sets the ruling state is not what you wish for, not even what you desire. It is what you expect. Expectation is one of the most powerful invisible forces in your life, and it cuts both ways. It can be the trigger that draws every good thing toward you, or a quiet saboteur that cancels your orders as fast as you place them. Here's the distinction that explains 90% of human frustration. Most people wish positive and expect negative. They wish for the raise while expecting to be passed over. They wish for health while expecting the worst from every test result. And then they're baffled that life keeps delivering what they expected instead of what they wished. Desire without expectation is just wishful thinking, a pleasant way to decorate an afternoon. But look back at any goal you ever actually reached at any point in your life. Go ahead, pick one. Now remember your inner state on the way to it. You didn't merely want it, did you? Somewhere inside, you expected to get it. That pairing, desire supplying the push, expectation supplying the pull, is present in every achievement you've ever had and absent from every frustration. One of the clearest definitions of desire I know says, in essence, that desire is the unexpressed possibility within you, pressing to express itself through your action. Your dream becomes a true desire only once it's planted in the subconscious. And once planted, it is expectation that stands guard over the seed, keeping it from being uprooted and replaced by every competing weed of doubt the week blows in. The light bulb parable. Now, why do most of us expect so little? Because we've mistaken our current awareness for the actual limit of supply. Let me give you a parable. Imagine a couple from the deepest backwoods, people who have never encountered electricity, moving into a village home lit by tiny 8-candle power bulbs. To them, those dim little bulbs are a miracle. Within months, the miracle becomes simply how light is. Then one day, a salesman arrives with a 60-candle power bulb and screws it in. And the couple stands transfixed as the same room floods with light they never dreamed possible. Here is the point. The current was there all along. Nothing about the wiring changed. The only limit on the light was the instrument plugged into it. You are the bulb. The infinite current flows to you and through you every second of your life, and it will express exactly as much light as the instrument allows, no more. Hold a dim, impoverished image, and the current faithfully produces a dim, impoverished life. And then we point at our dim results as proof that the current is weak. Meanwhile, all that was ever required was to plug in a bigger idea. Most of us don't just fail to upgrade the bulb. We actively strangle the supply with doubt and fear, and then curse the darkness we're manufacturing. There never has been a shortage of current. There has only ever been a shortage of awareness. The stream of plenty flows toward the open, expectant mind, and everything you need already exists in substance, waiting on your expectation to call it into form. Doubt, the counterfeit image maker. Which brings us to doubt, and I want you to reclassify doubt right now. Doubt is not caution. Doubt is not intelligence. Doubt is image making in reverse. When you entertain doubt, you are actively constructing detailed pictures of what you don't want and submitting them for manufacture. And you cannot bargain with the subconscious about it. That deeper mind has no sense of humor, no sense of fairness, no filter for what's good for you. Every image just is to it, and it accepts your worry portraits exactly as willingly as your prosperity portraits, rationalizing the doubt. I'm just being realistic. Changes nothing. The factory doesn't read the memo attached to the blueprint. It just builds the blueprint. So install this reflex. The instant you catch yourself entertaining doubt, stop, get quiet, relax, and deliberately rerun the image of yourself already in possession of what you want. That simple act redirects the entire mental current. A writer from a century ago compressed the whole law into one idea worth memorizing. Your environment is essentially a mirror. Your secret thinking made visible. Program the machine for good results. And good results are what it prints. A House by Christmas. Let me ground all this in one small, true-to-life story. A man is asked what he wants more than anything in the world. Long silence. Then, he wants to be in a home of their own, himself, his wife, her daughter, by Christmas, with his son from a previous marriage at the table on Christmas Day. Why not go get it? I can't. I don't have the money. There it is, the sentence that ends 1,000 dreams a day. So instead of arguing, a friend sits with the couple for an hour and does something better. Together, they build the image, the house in detail, until all three of them can see it. And then they go to work on expectation. What would change if you genuinely expected to be in that house by Christmas? And here's what happened, and what always happens. The moment expectation took hold, their minds jumped the track from whether to how. Questions poured out. What would it cost? What would we need down? Who do we call? Expectation converts the mind from a debating society into an engineering department. They called a real estate professional. The number turned out to be smaller than they'd feared. It usually is. Dread inflates every price tag. There were hurdles. There always are. And the following Tuesday, they moved into their house, days before Christmas, with the boy coming for Christmas dinner. The man's own summary said it all. It makes quite a difference when you expect what you do want instead of what you don't. Seeing is believing, says the world. The people of vision have always known it runs the other way. What you see, inwardly, expectantly, is what you eventually get outwardly. Two bicycle mechanics saw flight and expected to achieve it. Had they merely wished, the first crash would have finished them. The inner image always precedes the outer fact. The law of gestation and the park bench. One caution so that expectation doesn't curdle into impatience. Every seed in nature has its own gestation period. Plant a carrot and an oak on the same morning, and they do not arrive together. Your image is a seed planted in the most fertile field there is, and it too has a gestation period. And nobody can tell you its length in advance, so don't dig it up every week to check the roots. No one else needs to see your coming wealth. No one else needs to believe in it. The only requirements are that you see it and you believe it, that you move past believing it. It will happen into quietly knowing it will. An elderly rich man was once asked when he became successful. His answer, while he was sleeping on a park bench, because even then he knew where he was and he knew where he was going. By that standard, you became successful sometime in the last hour. You know where you are. You know where you're going. Now, expect to arrive. 3 steps. Build the image. Turn it over. Let go and let God. Expect with your whole heart to receive. That's the complete creative sequence. We're at the halfway point, and the second half is where we open the engine room, the physics of it, the law of vibration itself, and then the practical disciplines of risk, edge, and letting go. If you need to pause the video here, do it, stretch, get some water, and while you're away from the screen, catch yourself in one doubt and cancel it. And if this first hour has given you even one usable idea, this is the natural moment to subscribe and drop that idea in the comments. It helps the channel, and writing it down helps you keep it. Welcome back, or welcome onward if you never left. First half, the practices. Second half begins with the physics. Because I've been saying attract this whole video, and you deserve to know what's underneath the word. A great industrialist of the last century observed that any idea held firmly in the mind, whether feared or revered, begins at once to clothe itself in the most convenient physical form available, feared or revered. The mechanism doesn't check which. Let's look at the mechanism. And let me frame it with the man many call the father of the space program. After a lifetime probing the universe's deepest structure, he concluded publicly that the cosmos was inconceivable to him without a divine will behind it. That natural law is so precise, we can fly a ship to the moon and time the flight to a fraction of a second, and laws that precise must have been set. Science and religion, he said, are not enemies, but sister disciplines. One studies creation, the other the creator. One harnesses the forces of nature around us, the other the forces of nature within us. And when someone once asked him what it would take to build a rocket that could reach the moon, years before anyone took the idea seriously, his entire answer was 5 words long: the will to do it. Every great achiever arrives by whatever road at the same insight he held. There are exact laws on the inside too. The one that governs your prosperity is the law of attraction. And to understand attraction, you first need its foundation, the law of vibration. Nothing rests. Here is the law in one sentence: everything moves, nothing rests. There is no true stillness anywhere in the universe. Hold your arm straight out and keep it perfectly still. It looks inert, yet every particle composing it is in furious, ceaseless motion, a blur of activity your senses simply can't register. Now shake the arm. You've just consciously stepped up a vibration that was already there. From the finest, most ethereal levels of reality down to the densest stone. Everything is energy in motion, and things differ from one another, not in kind but in rate. The rate of vibration we call frequency. And the higher the frequency, the more potent the force. Now place this fact at the center of the table. Thought is among the very highest, most potent vibrations there is, which means the thinking you do is not a private, sealed-off activity. It is a physical event with physical consequences, and the rest of this section traces those consequences. You are a broadcasting station. Your body is an electrical instrument of astonishing refinement, and your brain is the finest of all, a transformer where frequencies are converted one into another, sensation into muscle movement, light and sound and thought each transmuted and each affecting the whole system. Medicine has measured the brain's electrical activity and the heart's for the better part of a century. The vibrations are not folklore, they're on the chart paper. What most people never connect is the through line from those vibrations to their results. When you think a thought, you set cells of your brain vibrating, and they radiate energy outward. The stronger and more concentrated the thought, the more potent the wave. You are, quite literally, a broadcasting station transmitting around the clock. And here is where it gets practical. Transmission is only half the system. There are receivers everywhere, and resonance decides which receivers pick up which broadcasts. You've seen resonance in the physical world. Strike one particular key on a piano, and a glass globe across the room hums in sympathy. That key and no other. Different materials, different shapes, it doesn't matter. What matters is that their frequencies match. When frequencies match, energy transfers. Now apply it to people. Walk into a room where someone is silently seething with anger. If you carry the corresponding receiver, if anger finds ready resonance in you, you'll feel your own mood curdle within minutes, and you may never know why. You've been affected by a broadcast. It works with gloom, with panic, with enthusiasm, with calm. This is why moods sweep through offices and households like weather. The air around you is thick with both kinds of transmission at all times. And a person who doesn't understand this law lives like a ship without a rudder, tossed by whatever happens to be in the air that day. A person who does understand it can insulate against the negative, tune deliberately to the positive, and, better still, become a transmitter that lifts every room they enter. Think about it. You automatically like people who make you feel good. Become the person whose presence moves others into a higher, brighter vibration, like a strong battery recharging weak ones. And watch what it does to every relationship and every negotiation in your life. This also finally explains the positive person / negative person divide at a mechanical level. The optimist, faced toward the sunshine, finding good even in the bad, lives in a positive vibration and therefore attracts positive people and circumstances. The pessimist dwells on the gloom, anticipates it, expects it, and is never disappointed because the vibration he maintains is a standing invitation to everything on its frequency. Misery genuinely does love company. It broadcasts for it. And the law of polarity guarantees both types exist, so that you, seeing both, can choose. You have free will over your ruling vibration. That is, either the most frightening or the most liberating sentence you'll hear in this video, depending on what you do with it. The acorn. Attraction in slow motion. Now let's watch attraction operate where you can see it plainly. In a seed. Take an acorn. It looks like a solid little object. You now know better. It's a dense swarm of energy in motion, and buried in it is a nucleus, a patterned plan that fixes its rate of vibration. Leave the acorn in a drawer, and it slowly disintegrates, because the universe's standing rule is create or disintegrate. Nothing gets to just sit, but put it in the soil, and the pattern plan switches on an attractive force. If your eyes could see energy directly, you'd watch an orderly parade of particles streaming toward that acorn, but only the particles in harmony with its vibration. Everything else in the soil is passed over, even repelled, the way oil and water refuse each other while two water drops rush together and merge. The harmonious particles join, the seed swells, shoots descend and rise, and the attraction continues from the atmosphere as it did from the earth, until the thing that was an acorn is an oak. Root, trunk, bark, branch, leaf. Every bit of it was out there in the universe, and every bit was summoned by the plan inside the seed. Here is the sentence to carry home. You are a seed with a choosable plan. The acorn's nucleus is fixed. It can only ever become an oak. Yours is not. The image you build on the screen of your conscious mind and plant deep in the subconscious is your nucleus. It sets your vibration. Your vibration determines what you attract and what you repel. And the harvest follows the plan with the same indifference to your preferences that the soil shows the acorn, which exposes the real cost of inconsistency. The person who plants prosperity on Monday digs it up with worry on Wednesday, and plants poverty by Friday isn't standing still. They're growing into something different every few days, attracting good and bad in alternating waves, and their life takes on exactly the chaos you'd predict. Most people live their entire lives oscillating between those poles and call the resulting mess bad luck. This is an orderly universe. Nothing arrives in your life by accident. Everything you're seeking is seeking you. It's all already here, and the whole game is getting into harmony with it. So when something shows up that you insist you didn't want, the hard, healthy truth is, on the level of vibration, you ordered it, and it was delivered right on schedule. Change the standing order. That's what the image card in your pocket is for. Everything to this point has happened between your ears. Now we step outside, because images without action are just interior decorating, and the bridge between the inner image and the outer result is always, always a risk. Let me state the law of this section flatly. You will never hear of, read about, or personally meet a single human being who achieved anything of genuine greatness without first taking some kind of risk. Not one. Survey the great religious figures. Monumental risks, everyone. Survey the great builders of enterprise, the same. And a life engineered to avoid all risk doesn't actually avoid failure. It just guarantees a particular kind of failure, an unbroken procession of grey, identical, sleep-inducing days. Here's the cruel joke on the cautious. Even the person who dodges every risk still fails from time to time. Failure finds everyone. So the choice was never risk versus safety. It was always risk with a chance of greatness versus caution with a guarantee of smallness. The diving board Reach back into childhood for a moment. Remember the neighborhood kid who climbed straight up the high dive ladder and launched off without a flicker of hesitation, while you stood in the shallow end, watching, feeling something you couldn't name leaking out of you. That something was self-respect. And remember, the day embarrassment finally outweighed fear, and you climbed and you jumped. And remember the electric 10 feet tall feeling when you surfaced. You had proved something to the only audience that ever mattered. Now look around at adult life. It is full of grown men and women standing at the base of that ladder. People who would dearly love to leave the job that's slowly flattening them, start the business, make the move, do their own thing, who never climb, because the fear of failure has them by the collar. They miss the opportunities. Worse, they never once get to find out what's actually down in their own depths and understand what failing even means. Falling short does not make you a failure. The only failure is the decision to stop trying, because as long as you retain the capacity for one more attempt, nothing is final. A beloved comedian once summarized his entire road to the top in a sentence to this effect: "For 16 straight years, my act consisted of falling down and getting up." Did he ever consider himself a failure? Never. And that's precisely why you know his name, where the fear came from. Now here's a liberating piece of intelligence. You were not born afraid of risk. Watch any infant. They are reckless little explorers, naturally programmed to reach, grab, fall, and reach again. The caution was installed, lovingly, by people terrified you'd get hurt. They hovered when you learned to walk and caught you before every stumble. They soothed you after the fight with the kid next door and told you to steer clear of children like that. Your first bicycle arrived wrapped in 100 warnings. Careful, watch out, don't fall. Layer by layer, a caution light was wired into your young mind until it burned before every move you made. Understand, they meant only love, but you're allowed to notice that the program was installed, that it wasn't yours, and that installed programs can be replaced. Underneath it, the born risk-taker is still there, still wired for the path that leads to your own greatness. Risk is not recklessness. Now for the crucial distinction, because I am not recommending foolishness. A risk-taker acts courageously. A fool acts irresponsibly. And though the line between them occasionally gets thin, you must never cross it. Picture a young man goaded by his friends into diving off a high cliff into shallow water. He's untrained. When he imagines the dive, he sees himself broken on the rocks. And he jumps anyway, because he fears their mockery more than the water. That is not courage. That is irresponsibility wearing courage's jacket. Now give that same man years of professional training, the skill to read the conditions, the ability to visualize the entire dive completing successfully, and the same leap becomes a genuine, legitimate risk taken by a competent person. Same cliff, different man. Think of the stunt professionals in film. They do dangerous things for a living, and they are almost never hurt because they are masters who check and double-check every calculation before the simplest move. Risk-takers, yes. Reckless, never. Same test in money. The man who pours his savings into a venture he doesn't understand on a relative's hot tip, driven by greed and against his own screaming misgivings, then spends every waking hour picturing himself ruined. That man is not a risk-taker. He's a gambler with extra steps, and the predictable ending costs him the money and the friendship, because fools rarely blame themselves. But the man who hears the same tip, studies it himself, forms a judgment on knowledge rather than hearsay, invests only what cannot sink him, and scales in as experience accumulates, he's taking a true risk. And if it fails anyway, he's lost some money. He keeps the friend, keeps his self-respect, and stays open to the next opportunity because he knows he's guilty of nothing worse than a judgment call that didn't land. The business world tells the same story. Yes, the failure statistics look grim, but autopsy the failures, and you find that a great many of those founders went in unprepared, underfunded, impatient, giving a venture 3 weeks that honestly needed 3 years. That's not evidence against risk. It's evidence against recklessness. Because alongside those statistics stand the quiet successes, the steady employee with a good job, a mortgage, a family, everything to lose apparently, who, with his wife, kept picturing a business of their own until the image demanded expression. They studied, they prepared, they were afraid. Of course they were afraid, and they proceeded in the face of the fear, which is the actual definition of courage. Years of hard hours later, a thriving company, a payroll full of people, clients across the map, and a net worth exceeding everything he'd earned in all the salaried years combined. Ask people like that whether they'd do it again, and you already know the answer. Here's a portrait to remember. A study of wartime fighter pilots found, counterintuitively, that the ones who played it safe were often among the first ones lost, while the surviving aces were, almost to a man, the boldest flyers in the sky. And a study of a group of self-made millionaires found that although everything they owned rode on their major decisions, not one of them felt like they were taking risks, because each one lived as though failure was simply impossible. That's the inner posture, prepared like a professional, committed like a person who cannot lose. The balance sheet exercise. Let's make this actionable before we move on. You have a dream. Everyone watching this does. Some picture that surfaces now and then that you'd love to execute and keep filing under someday. Here's your protocol for it. 1. Write it out in detail and in the present tense. Not I plan to. Write it as though it's underway now. Add 2 words in large letters. I can. Say them out loud. Drive the idea into the deeper mind by every channel you've got. 2. Choose one confidant. 1. A person who believes in you and thinks in the direction you're now thinking. Share the dream with that person and no one else for now. You need a builder, not a demolition crew. 3. Take a fresh sheet. Draw a line down the middle. Left column, a minus sign. Write the worst realistic outcome if you go ahead. Right column, a plus sign. Write every best outcome. Now study the sheet. Provided the plan is honest and honorable, the left column is never actually fatal, inconvenient, embarrassing, recoverable. The right column can be magnificent. What the sheet demonstrates, in your own handwriting, is that you have effectively nothing to lose, because even the worst case leaves you with the one asset that matters, the capacity to get up and go again. Read the lives of accomplished people. I mean, actually read the biographies. And you find, almost without exception, catalogues of misses on the road to the hits. Missing stings. It embarrasses, and it stops nothing unless you let it. So decide this minute that you are one of the risk takers. Then let's talk about how thin the winning margin actually is. Here's a belief that quietly poisons more lives than almost any other. The successful are a different breed. They've got it. They're twice as smart, 10 times as talented, playing a game we weren't invited to. This section exists to kill that belief with arithmetic. The line between winning and losing is as fine as a razor's edge. A novelist built a famous book around that phrase, and a producer spent a fortune filming it, and both understood the same truth. There is no great difference between people. There is only a great difference in what they do. One person almost starts, the other starts. One nearly finishes, the other finishes. One sees the opportunity, the other acts on it. One student misses a pass by a single percentage point out of 100. And that 1 point changes everything downstream. Look at the measurable cases. At one Olympic 100-meter final, the gap between the gold medal and last place, 8 of the fastest humans alive, was about 1/10 of a second. In the 1940s, the first racehorse in American history to pass $1 million in career earnings out-earned the year's second-place horse by roughly 10-1. A horse that kept losing mile-long races by inches. 10 times the money. Compare their actual recorded times, and the champion wasn't even 4% faster. Or take the film industry. A famous production employed 8 principal actors and 8 stand-ins, and the stand-ins were deliberately chosen to match the stars in size. Look, intelligence, even wardrobe. The leading man stand-in had attended the same high school he had. Nearly identical human beings. The principal's combined pay was roughly 75 times the stand-ins. 75 times the money for what may have been a few percent of difference in craft. Because that few percent sat exactly on the edge that matters. Do you see what this means for you? You are as good, as powerful, as fundamentally equipped as anyone you will ever see, meet, or read about. The difference lives entirely in the column marked accomplishments. And accomplishments respond to small, deliberate improvements at the edge. There is something, usually something almost embarrassingly simple, that will vastly improve your current results. It may not be what you'd guess, and it won't be the same something as your neighbor's. Your only assignment is to find yours, and then, this is the part people skip, do it. What the edge looks like in the wild. Let me show you how ordinary the edge usually is. The November decision. A top insurance salesman finishes his company's big annual October contest with triple his normal month. Then, per tradition, prepares to ease off into a normal November and slides into the standard post-contest deflation. A friend asks him one question. What would you do with the extra income if you simply repeated October in November? The man's whole face changes. He's obviously capable of it. He just did it. The only thing missing was the decision. He repeats the performance, beats it, actually. And thousands of colleagues at the same company, with the same products and the same market, never think to try. The edge, for him, was one decision anyone could have made, and almost no one did. The second effort. A legendary football coach observed that most games are decided in the last 2 minutes of each half, and he drilled his players in a single habit. When you're stopped, surge again. Translate that to a salesperson closing 3 units a week. One extra sale per week, one second effort, looks trivial on any given Friday. Across a career, it compounds into thousands of additional sales and roughly a decade's worth of extra income. The big leagues are one small habit away. The Garage, a family of genuinely skilled, hard-working mechanics, is watching their repair shop die, ready to close the doors. A visitor asks questions and notices something. Ask about engines and they light up with competence. Ask about customers and the lights go out. The prescription costs nothing. Picture the shop full of cars, and with every repair, vacuum the interior, wash the body, polish the glass. Why? Because most customers can't judge a valve job, but everyone can judge a shine. And everyone loves collecting a car that looks better than they left it. 2 weeks later, the family calls, mystified, drowning in more work than they can schedule. The Edge was a hospitable attitude and a clean windshield. The one-page book. A caller on a radio program, bitter, stuck, mourns the writing career she surrendered to marriage and small children. She can't go off to some island to write, so she writes nothing. The host points out that almost no working authors live on islands and offers The Edge, 1 page a day. 1. Rise an hour early. In a year, that's a full-length book, with her family right there providing moral support, instead of resentment absorbing it. The dream was never blocked. It was waiting for 1 hour. The rehearsal. The surgeon who led the first implantation of an artificial heart in a human being described his professional creed as rehearsing, and rehearsing again, running the operation on the screen of his mind until the real thing felt routine. And the young designer of that heart, rejected by every medical school in the country, multiple times, advised by a professor to try dentistry instead. He kept coming. One school finally admitted him, and a decade later, he made medical history. No dazzling test scores, just perseverance and one more bite at the apple. A great student of achievement, after personally analyzing the world's most productive inventor and its most transformative industrialist, year after year, reported finding no quality in either man, none, except persistence that could account for their staggering results. Neither was intellectually extraordinary. Both were unstoppable. Your daily edge. So let me hand you the 2 most reliable edges ever discovered, both available to you starting tomorrow morning. Edge 1. The studying hour. Most people's skills freeze at good enough, the way the average adult's reading ability freezes around the level of a 12-year-old, because that's where the lessons stopped. Whatever your field, the moment you passed proficient, you probably stopped improving, and so did nearly everyone around you, which is precisely your opportunity. Study your craft 1 hour a day, 1 focused hour. In 5 years, that's the equivalent of nearly a year of full-time, concentrated education. And long before the 5 years are up, you will stand out among your peers like a giraffe in a field of mice. The race is so thinly attended that even modest discipline wins it. And if you spend serious time driving, a person doing average annual mileage sits behind the wheel for the equivalent of months of working time each year. Turn the noise off and turn instruction on, and let that dead time deposit a fortune in your subconscious. It is virtually impossible to marinate your mind in great ideas daily without those ideas leaking out into your results. And remember, you may be exactly 1 idea short of the life you want. Edge 2. The simulation hour. Don't just study, rehearse. And I choose the word deliberately, not role play, which collapses into play, but simulation in the astronaut sense. Pre-living the performance as if it were actually happening. If you sell, deliver tomorrow's presentation out loud to an empty chair this morning. Fully add performance intensity. If you present, present. If you negotiate, negotiate. An hour of daily simulation will transform your public performance in months, because when the real moment arrives, you've already been there 100 times. And absorb this hard, useful sentence into your standards. If the need was there, and the means were there, and you still didn't make the sale, the remaining explanation is that you weren't good enough yet. Yet is the razor's edge. The edge cuts both ways, mind you. The law of opposites guarantees it. A fingertip's pressure turns metal into tragedy. A single shouted word turns a happy room into a stampede. If you're not deliberately edging forward, you're almost certainly drifting backward. Nothing gets to just sit, create, or disintegrate. So, stop right now and ask yourself the only question this section requires. What is the razor's edge move in my life? You know what it is. You've known for a while. Then do it. We're in the home stretch, and this section addresses the direction your mind faces, because you cannot drive forward while staring into the rearview mirror. And yet that is precisely how enormous numbers of people conduct their entire mental lives. A teacher of this philosophy once offered a beautiful compass for attention, not backward in anger, not forward in fear, but around us in awareness. Hold that trinity while we examine the most expensive habit in the world, living in the past tense. The two graveyards of attention. Consider where most people's present moments actually go. One great portion is spent replaying the pleasant past, endless hours reminiscing, cataloging what used to be, polishing memories of people and times that are gone. Harmless in small doses. As a lifestyle, it's a museum you've moved into. But the second portion is worse. Replaying the painful past, the injustice somebody did you, the cutting remark from years ago, the failure, the missed chance that slipped through your fingers. Understand what this replay manufactures: resentment and guilt, two of the deadliest states a mind can hold, and a vibration so relentlessly negative that a constructive thought can barely get a landing slot. And there's a deeper cost still. As long as a person believes others authored their misfortune, they are structurally incapable of fixing anything, because the one person you can actually change is yourself. And their story insists the fault lives elsewhere. What happened is beyond all editing. The only manuscript still open is the one in front of you. Every visionary who ever moved the world understood this instinctively. They projected forward. They thought about what could be, not what already was, and then acted to bring it over the line into reality. Because of forward-facing minds, you can cross an ocean between breakfast and dinner, banish darkness with a switch, and hear a loved one's voice from the far side of the planet. Every one of those miracles was built by ordinary people running the standard equipment, the same equipment you own, pointed forward. The size of what you're carrying and what equipment it is. Researchers at leading institutions have estimated the nervous system's storage capacity at a scale that could, in principle, hold all the recorded information in the world with room to spare. And brain scientists have suggested that for practical purposes, the mind's creative capacity may as well be called infinite. Set against that capacity, the famous conclusion of one of psychology's founders more than a century ago. The average person inhabits only a narrow circle of their potential being, drawing on a small fraction of their possible consciousness, like someone who owns an entire body yet has fallen into the habit of moving only one little finger. He guessed we might be operating at something like a tenth of capacity. A century later, has the average changed? Look around. We are all trained to measure ourselves by report cards, and untold numbers of capable people have been sacrificed on that altar, walking around with near infinite machinery and a grade school opinion of themselves. If you've spent years telling yourself you can't, you've simply built a mental block, one brick of repetition at a time. And what repetition built, repetition can dismantle. You don't lack ability. At most, you lack the how. And the how is learnable. That's what this video has been. The instant camera. Here's my favorite model of the mind's forward mechanics. Think of an instant camera, the kind that spits out a photograph that develops before your eyes. The shutter is your conscious mind. It snaps the picture, chooses the image. The camera body is your subconscious. It does the developing. No opinions, no edits. It processes whatever the shutter admitted. And the finished photograph is your results, the physical print of the picture you took earlier. Notice two properties of this camera. First, there's a development delay, the gestation period we discussed. So today's results are prints of yesterday's photography. Arguing with the print changes nothing. Second, and this is the trap, point the camera at the same scene over and over, and you get identical photographs forever. That is what thinking in reverse literally is. Photographing your current results, developing them into next month's identical results, and calling the album My Life. The escape is equally literal. Point the shutter at what you want, the not yet existing scene, and let the darkroom do what it has always done. The cruise that almost got cancelled by a thought. A small story about how sneaky reverse thinking is. A capable young woman, grown, unattached, free, grows visibly flat and joyless at work. The classic symptom of a person without a goal. Ask what she actually wants, she's startled by the question. Pressed, she confesses the dream, a tropical cruise. Then, in the same breath, the cancellation. But I don't have any money, so I can't. Notice the move. She consulted her present results and let them veto her future. That is thinking in reverse in its most common street clothes. The counsel she received, it costs nothing to want. Stop photographing what is. Book the trip, make definite, dated plans. And give no thought to what could go wrong, trusting that whatever the goal requires will be attracted once the commitment is real. If it's money you need, it will come, though perhaps not until the last moment. She booked. Things assembled themselves in ways nobody could have scheduled. She ended up with more than the trip required. And at dawn on departure day, she stood at the airport glowing, off on a voyage she'd remember all her life. But the trip wasn't the real prize. The real prize was the installed, personally verified knowledge that reverse thinking shows you only why you can't, while forward, expectant thinking shows you how you can. She owns that key now for every door she'll ever face. Have you been postponing a trip, a project, a call? Book it. Set the date. Let anticipation, which may be half the joy anyway, start compounding today. and connect this back to our insurance manager from the first half. 20 years of brutal effort, honestly believing he was forward-looking, while actually staring at sales sheets, letting present results run the camera, and trying to force better prints through willpower and punishing hours. Effort like that always improves things somewhat. It never produces the dramatic leap. The leap waits, patient as law, for the image to change first. If you've been letting a bank statement, a sales report, or a medical chart dictate your inner pictures, today that arrangement ends. Let present results serve exactly one function: a report on your past thinking. Then look up, look ahead, and photograph the future on purpose. The next technique. I'll close this section with the most practical group tool I know for forward thinking, built on the law of polarity, the law that everything has an equal opposite: no up without down, no hot without cold, which yields a startling corollary. If you can figure out why a thing can't be done, then by law, the means by which it can be done must also exist. Achievers know the negative is there. They simply refuse to feed it their energy. Here's the technique in action as it unfolded after a real disaster. A tornado tore through a small city, killing a dozen people and destroying millions of dollars of property. A broadcasting executive drove past the wreckage and couldn't shake one thought. With the radio stations at his disposal, there must be something he could do. Days later, he gathered his executives, wrote 3 large 3s at the top of a flip chart, and asked, "How would you like to raise $3 million 3 days from now, in just 3 hours, for those families?" Silence. Then the inevitable. "You're out of your mind. It can't be done." And his reply cut to the heart of everything we've covered in this video. "I didn't ask whether we could. I asked whether you'd like to. Everyone would like to. So under the heading, why we can't, he drew a giant X. No ideas would be recorded there, however valid, and gave the room one rule. The moment anyone voices a reason it's impossible, everybody shouts, 'Next!' and the train rolls on to the following idea until a constructive one arrives. Someone offers a broadcast across the whole country. Objection, instantly. We don't own stations across the country, and competing stations never cooperate. Next. The idea stays on the how we can side. Someone else recruit the nation's 2 most famous television anchors to host it. Objection. Television anchors won't do radio. Next. And at that moment, by every account, the energy in the room physically shifted. Ideas began arriving faster than they could be written down. That meeting was on a Friday. The following Tuesday, 50 radio stations, competitors, cooperating because the cause mattered more than the credit, carried a nationwide broadcast hosted by those very anchors. And together, they raised $3 million in 3 hours within 3 business days. The executive took no fee. But watch the law of circulation close the loop. The story spread far and wide, inspiring uncounted people to next their own impossibilities. And the man himself went on to lead a national broadcasting company, with good fortune seeming to follow him like a shadow. Put good out, it must come back. So take your own impossible, you named it during the risk section, and give it the treatment. State the want, X out the can't column, and next every objection, your own included, until the how arrives. It's awkward for the first few minutes, then the dam breaks, and you'll be astonished at what pours through. A renowned psychologist once said he was grateful to the ideas that had used him. And that's exactly how a forward-facing mind feels. Less like pushing an idea, more like being carried by one. One law remains, and it may be the most immediately usable thing you hear in this video. Nature abhors a vacuum. She will not tolerate empty space. She rushes to fill it. And that single fact of physics doubles as a complete philosophy of receiving. You cannot get the new until you make room for it by releasing the old. The drapes. Let me show you the law at kitchen table scale. A woman sits in her living room, glaring at the curtains, and announces she is sick to death of how they've been living. She detests those old drapes. A friend who understands the law smiles and says something outrageous. No, you don't. You love them. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep them so close. Because in the vocabulary of vibration, love simply means resonance, harmonious vibration. And the only things that remain in your life are the things you're in harmony with. Her proof of detesting them would be simple. They'd already be down, cleaned, and donated to a charity that could use them. Her husband, now certain everyone present has lost their minds, states the obvious objection. She is not taking those drapes down. There's nothing to replace them and no budget to buy anything. And here is the whole law in one reply. You will never hang new drapes until you've first made a space for them. You cannot pour into a full cup. She took them down that day over serious domestic resistance and gave them away. Understand what else came down with them. Every glance at those drapes had been flashing a resentment image across her mind, dropping her into the exact negative vibration that attracts more of the unwanted. For a while, the family lived with bare windows. And as the friend dryly predicted, people tire quickly of living in a fishbowl. Before long, the drapes she actually wanted were hanging exactly where she wanted them, the how assembling itself once the space existed. And she didn't stop. The tired furniture went next, given away room by room, each release triggering its replacement, until the whole home was finally, genuinely hers, arranged precisely the way she'd always wanted it. Her verdict, years later, was that it's astonishing what a small amount of knowledge can do. Learn a little, receive a lot. Your closet this week. Now make it yours. Nearly everyone loves new clothes, and nearly everyone's closet is packed so tight, a new hanger has to fight its way onto the bar, mostly with garments that never get worn. Some were expensive, which makes releasing them feel wasteful. But you know perfectly well certain pieces simply never feel right when you put them on. So here is a project with a deadline of this week. Comb the closet with a fine-toothed comb. Remove everything you genuinely don't wear and give it away. All of it. You'll have created a vacuum. And since nature abhors one, watch how quickly the space refills, this time with things you actually love. Then keep the practice for life, perpetually making space for the good you desire. And a rule inside the rule. Give the old things away. Don't sell them. I know that collides with your conditioning, but when you sell, the few dollars you collect are the entire transaction. Closed, complete, finished. When you give, truly give, releasing all claim, you've engaged an infinite power that operates by exact law, and receive you must, as surely as rain follows colliding clouds, though almost never from the direction you gave toward. You cannot give too much. Give expecting nothing from that source, and expecting everything from the law. the mental closet. Now lift the same law into the realm where it matters most, ideas. To entertain a new idea, you must first loosen your grip on an old one and watch what happens to people who can't. They hold contradictory ideas simultaneously. Do it, don't do it, go, stay, oscillating for years in the state we politely call indecision, which may be the single greatest force holding people back from accomplishing anything great. You cannot travel east and west at once. One idea has to be released before the other can move you an inch. So why do we clutch old things and old ideas so desperately? Ask 1,000 people and you'll collect 1,000 secondary answers. But the primary cause is the same in every human being. We lack faith in our ability to obtain new ones. That's the root. The person convinced that supply is limited, that security lives in the pile of stuff, will guard the pile, add to the pile, and fear anything new. But you've spent 2 hours learning otherwise. Your real self borders on the unlimited. The current at the source never runs low. Supply was never the problem. A person who knows they can release anything because they know exactly where replacements come from. And notice the paradox at the bottom of it. Whatever you must clutch, you can never truly enjoy. Freedom from the fear grip is the very condition of the rich life. The kinked hose. Last image of the video. Picture yourself watering a garden. The source is abundant, the pressure strong, and yet only a sad trickle drips from the nozzle because somewhere behind you, unnoticed, the hose has looped and kinked. What do? You don't curse the water company. You don't conclude the water is scarce. You walk the hose, find the kink, remove it, and the flow resumes instantly in full force because it was never gone. You are the hose. The creative power flows to you and through you without limit. And the kinks have names: doubt, guilt, resentment, fear, and every image of lack you've been storing. Each one obstructs the flow of the energy that would otherwise be breathing new life into you and into everything you touch. You've been trying to hold a beautiful image on a kinked line and harvesting frustration. So do with your mind exactly what you do with the hose. Walk the line, find each obstruction, and let it go. Not manage it, not justify it. Release it and discover for yourself that there was never any shortage at the source. There never has been. There never will be. Let's gather this whole video into your 2 hands. You learned that money is important, morally neutral, a superb servant and a catastrophic master, that it lives only in circulation and dies in hordes, that it is earned through service, never wished into being. And that worry about it is a manufacturing order for the very lack you fear. You learn to name your number, the exact income of the life you choose, and to install the machinery beneath it. Pay yourself first, 10% to financial independence, 20% retiring the debts by calm, automatic decree, protection for your family, and a mind thereby swept clear for creation. You learn that everything is created twice, image first, thing second, that you are the architect either way, and that the fatal error of the human race is letting the printout of yesterday's thinking dictate the blueprint of tomorrow. You learned the 2-step creative sequence. Relax and see yourself already in possession of your good. Then let go and let God. And that faith, the ability to see the invisible and believe the incredible, is the connecting link that makes it run. You learned that expectation, not wishing, is the trigger. that everything vibrates, that you are a broadcasting station and a seed with a choosable plan, attracting with perfect precision whatever harmonizes with the image you hold. You learned that no greatness ever arrived without risk, that your caution was installed, not inborn, that courage is not recklessness, and that a 2-column sheet of paper can prove you have nothing real to lose. You learned that the margin between ordinary and extraordinary is a razor's edge. One decision, 1 hour of study, 1 page, 1 rehearsal, 1 more effort, and that the race is so thinly attended that discipline alone can win it. You learn to point the camera forward and to next every impossibility until the how arrives. And you learned, finally, that nature abhors a vacuum, that letting go of drapes and doubts alike is not loss, but the precondition of receiving. Now, what will you actually do? Because I told you at the start, hearing changes nothing, reciting changes nothing, understanding applied changes everything. So here is the homework, and I'm asking you to treat it as a promise to yourself. Today, before you sleep, write the card, present tense. I'm so happy now that, completed with the life you choose. It rides in your pocket tomorrow and every day after. Read until the image rises on its own. This week, the dream budget and your number. The 2 accounts opened, the creditor letters mailed, if they apply. The closet purged, given away, not sold. And the 2-column balance sheet drawn up on the dream you've been postponing. Every day, from now on, minutes of deliberate imaging, morning and night. The declaration of faith out loud, by name, whenever doubt shows up. 1 hour of study in your craft, 1 rehearsal, 1 second effort, 1 next. And return to these ideas again and again, not to finish them, but to absorb them. Take 1 at a time. Live with it until it's part of your personality structure rather than part of your vocabulary. Find 1 other person to walk the road with. These ideas grow best in 2s. And shield your seedlings from the frost of the scoffers until they're trees. I'll leave you with 2 thoughts. The first is about uniqueness. Nowhere in nature will you find 2 identical snowflakes, 2 identical blades of grass, 2 identical grains of sand. Everything that exists was made to be precisely, unrepeatably itself. How foolish, then, to imitate anyone. How useless to pretend to be anyone. There has never been another you, and there never will be. Which means the particular good you were built to create will either come through you or it will not come at all. The second is about the gift and the return. The talent and ability placed inside you exceeds what you could exhaust in 100 lifetimes. That was the gift to you. The gift you give back is measured by how much of it you develop and use and pour out in the 1 lifetime you have. Whatever your results look like when you clicked on this video, whatever the bank statement says, whatever the past insists, the deepest fact about you has not changed since the day you arrived on this planet. You were born rich. Now go live like it. If this video moved something in you, do 3 things before you click away. First, the comments are right below. Write down the 1 idea you're going to apply this week. Stating it publicly plants it. Second, subscribe and ring the bell, because this channel takes 1 classic book of the success philosophy at a time and turns it into a complete, watchable course like this one. And third, there's a video on your screen right now. That's the natural next step from everything you just heard. Don't let the algorithm decide your next thought. Choose it. Thank you for listening. And remember, you were born rich.